Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Uncharted Spoilercast and Review. What's that over there? It's my treasured co-host. We have Bob Video Games.
Ooh, golden crusted knife.
From GigaBoots.com, we've got Dr. Agro.
What year is it?
And Chris Wolfhard.
In this movie, I'm a composite of 15 different movie villains.
And I'm a composite of 15 different white guys. Hello, I'm Dan Video Games. Welcome to the Uncharted Spoilercast and Review. For people who haven't watched one of our reviews before, we, at the beginning, give a two-sentence summary of basically how we feel about the movie and a guttural sound to sort of communicate the feels. Then we will move on to discussing the film in more detail, and then at the end we will give you the drawn-out summary, final scores out of 10, and then let you know what this scored. So, let's get to it. We're going to go ahead and start with Bob's summary. Bob, summarize me, Captain.
This is an Indiana Jones film, but watered down so intensely you can hardly tell. It completely misses the point of Uncharted of having like fun, enjoyable characters go on wild adventures with cool action set pieces. Like it doesn't hit any of those. I'm gonna go with a.
Okay, we now move to Dr. Agro.
Uncharted was a movie that was released in January of 2009 and then lost. Not gone, but lost. And recently rediscovered and put on the internet to hurt me.
Chris Wolfhard.
They made a movie. It's roughly 2 hours long. It was presumably shot on cameras. It has characters in it and probably had a script. I'm going to give it a...
And I'm going to finish with, this script was written in front of a green screen. Ooh.
You know how they say that like an actor disappears into the role? Like you can no longer perceive the actor, you can only perceive the character?
I have heard of that, yes.
Yes.
In this movie, Tom Holland does the opposite. Like he fully absorbs Nathan Drake into Tom Holland. There is no Nathan Drake anymore.
God.
Yeah.
In fact, that's kind of every single character in the movie where it's like, no, there's no Sullivan in this movie. That's Mark Wahlberg.
Like, Nathan Drake does 3 things in those games. That's all he does, all right? He shoots people, he climbs things, and he has, like, rakishly charming one-liners. So let's go over what he does in this fucking movie. He bartends, he parkours, and he looks hurt that someone has emotionally not fulfilled his expectations of them.
That description just makes me think we need to make Tom Holland Shinji.
Before it's too late. Yes.
He will only stay looking like he's 15 for so long.
Yeah, I really appreciated the 15-year jump in this movie, and I'm like, wow, he aged 4 years.
Yeah, everybody looks like so much younger than they should look. Even Sullivan, of course.
Yeah, even Victor Sullivan.
And Chloe, of course.
Yeah, I don't know who in the office thought that Uncharted was a YA novel.
Yeah,
right?
that's...
Or that it needed an origin story.
Right.
I mean, Naughty Dog did that twice, and people didn't like it either time all that much.
Like, guys, you can start with your hero being cool and already established. That's how Indiana Jones started.
Yeah, it's how Uncharted started, because that's a trope. We already know what the deal with this type of story is.
It's really impressive. Uncharted 1, a game written by Amy Hennig, coming over from making Soul Reaver and working on other games, did an excellent job capturing the essence of what this fucking movie is the exact genre of, but can't. It's like the main character is supposed to be that structure, quips, betrays people lightly, but it's fun. There's whimsy. None of the chemistry is there with any character.
Yeah, none at all.
Like you had to make a cookie cutter movie out of a game whose biggest detraction when it came out was, this game's just trying to be a movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you fuck that up?
That's a really fucking bizarre thing about this movie is that pretty much every set piece is something they took from one of the games.
Yeah.
So it's just, here's that thing from the game, but it looks worse.
I'm trying to think, as obviously the Uncharted 3 things hanging out of the out of the back of the plane.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of other ones that are just directly from the game.
Definitely when he's chasing Chloe, there is Uncharted 3 vibes in that. Absolutely. The setting and scenery looks nowhere near as good, of course.
They go to like the area of Uncharted 4.
Yeah, there's a whole
like, that's
lot
where the
of
climax
4.
takes place.
There is. Yeah.
I didn't beat 4. Do they like carry the ships on helicopters?
No,
and have
the one big thing that wasn't in the games, the whole time I went, man, this is really dumb in a movie. This would be sick as shit in an Uncharted game.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is really stupid in a movie, but it would be cool as shit if I was sword fighting guys on it in a game.
Yeah.
That's the problem with making a movie of a game franchise that is already basically a movie. I feel like we're getting a preview of how that Last of Us show is going to feel.
The Last of Us show is going to clown on this. As someone who isn't necessarily in love with HBO or The Last of Us, though I have enjoyed things from both, The Last of Us show is absolutely going to stomp this movie.
I mean, if it does one simple thing, which is actually adapt the story and not what this did, which is like this movie has so many what you could call references and homages and call-outs that should be, gratifying and, oh, I clapped and shit like that.
Yeah.
But the soul of this movie is so far removed and completely indifferent to the existence of the games that it feels more like callous strip mining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the set pieces just don't look nearly as good. The chase scene in Spain, I believe.
Barcelona.
Barcelona. I was trying to remember where exactly. Where he's chasing Chloe just has really not great looking environments to do the chase through. The chase itself is really unimpressive.
Yeah, it's really just this rooftop.
And it's not like a normal rooftop, which is, has slopes. It's walkways in between the slopes.
Yeah, it made me think directly of a scene in that Spectre James Bond movie, the newest one.
Yeah.
And how that was just a way better version of the same scene.
100%.
There's a couple of action movies that have that exact same rooftop chase sequence.
Right.
But it looks good at all.
You could almost hear Tom Holland going, parkour.
Yeah, it's weird how unimpressive all of the action in this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not expecting, like, the Mission Impossible 6 bathroom fight out of this movie. Because that scene's too good.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's not a single good, like, action moment in this. It's, like, really... It kind of reminded me of, like, Demolition Man, where it's, like, none of the action in this is really that impressive. It's kind of clumsy, even.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's definitely true of Demolition Man, but I think there's a certain, like, it looks sick as shit on camera that accomplishes multiple times that this can't do
and
once.
This does not. Like, I'm like the coolest thing in this, which they don't even really sell that much, is when Mark Wahlberg picks up the character that should be Nadine but isn't Nadine for some reason.
For some fucking reason.
They had their own character, okay, guys? She's way more interesting than Nadine.
She has a karambit.
And, like, just power bombs her through, like, a glass wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which I'm sure Mark Wahlberg loved doing.
The marketing for this movie is quite hilarious because they always play up, well, Tom Holland, he did all of his stunts in this film. This is the most stunts he's ever done.
Maybe he shouldn't have. You know what's great? If you're a talented martial artist and physical actor like Jackie Chan, doing your own stunts is great. If you're not that, maybe you should allow the expert to do your stunts so they look good and are impressive.
Yeah, there's a scene where Sully gets stopped by not Nadine.
Mm-hmm.
And then he slips out. And as he slips out, she starts taking out the 3 bodyguards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as she does that, I'm like, this is so close to looking cool. Like, it's almost there. It's not quite there, but this is neat looking. So I was kind of shocked when, after the movie, because my Redbox Blu-ray that they tricked me into buying because it was only $3 more than the $2 rental, automatically goes into, like, marketing stuff, behind the scenes, deleted stuff. Which we really need to mention before we end this.
Yeah, of course.
They talk about, oh, the actress for her is like a martial artist. She's got a black belt, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I feel like that should have used better choreography.
Oh yeah, like it's not even sloppy choreography, it's that on top of horrible camera angle.
100%. That's a bad camera angle for what they were trying to do.
They start doing that cool fight scene with her. They cut to outside the door, and you see it happen through the door. It's like, what are you
that's
doing?
awesome, and we're leaving.
Yeah.
like she shows up. I'm like, oh fuck. That's I cannot for the life of me pronounce her first name, or rather, I don't know how to. I believe it is Tati Gabrielle.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
She was in the Netflix Sabrina series, which was good for like a season and a half. So she shows up, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, she's playing Nadine Ross. This is gonna be awesome. Why isn't she Nadine?
Because Echo, they wanted to do the twist. They wanted to make.
They wanted to do a bunch of twists,
That
none of which
twist
land.
is so. It's like, okay, so you have Antonio Banderas, who is playing a composite of every action movie villain in human history.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of set up his character where it's like he's the descendant of, one of the people who found this gold, and he believes it's his birthright, and his dad's giving away the family fortune because it was, made through colonialism and all that. And so he kills his dad. But then it's just like, well, now the character that doesn't matter kills him and is now the villain. I'm like, I wasn't really that attached to him anyway. What did you do?
Right.
Why? To what end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because you would think that like that could fit into the Uncharted thing where Nathan Drake in the first game at least is looking for Francis Drake's gold or his treasure because he's the descendant of Francis Drake. So it's like, oh, there's a parallel between Nathan Drake and this character, but that isn't brought up in this movie at all. In fact, do they even bring up that they're related to Francis Drake or believe themselves to be at all in
Sam
this?
says it
In
once,
the opening scene.
and then turns and goes, but we're not doing that plot line here.
I just wanted to say it for some reason.
We're doing this fucking Magellan thing that is so similar to that, but for some reason not.
We're descendants of Francis Drake. That's what our parents said, who are dead.
That like this has the image energy of where it's like, well, we're doing the origin story, so we can't actually do any of the game plots because we might want to do those in sequels. So we have to do like a shitty, weird version of one of them.
Which is weird because both 3 and 4 do a lot of this is younger Nathan Drake stuff.
And they have him make Sullivan, and it's good at all.
Yeah. It's natural instead of the movie wrote us to meet.
It reminded me of Smallville. Because Smallville had that problem real bad because he doesn't become Superman until the end of the show.
What?
That ran 8 seasons.
What? I did not know this.
So you have this thing where they introduce Jimmy Olsen, who dies, and at his funeral, his camera is given to his younger cousin, who is also named Jimmy Olsen, who is implied to be the Jimmy Olsen that Superman meets as an adult.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
And like they do Doomsday, and Superman fights Doomsday and punches him into the earth really deep where he goes into like a sleep so he can wake up later and kill Superman. And that's the energy this movie gave me. It's like that, but with Uncharted.
I want to talk about how this movie opens.
Yeah.
Because it literally opens like those modern trailers you see cut where you see a part of the trailer that's going to play later.
Yeah.
And they show you like the biggest set piece we made, like 5 minutes of it. And then we go to the movie and it's like, that didn't need to be there at all. Yeah, absolutely not.
The movie did genuinely feel like those terrible newer trailers that it's just like, the Uncharted trailer starts now.
That's kind of how like 2 and 3 at least started.
But it feels natural there, and it isn't the biggest set piece. 2 starts with the train falling off the thing, right? That isn't the hugest part of 2. There's a lot more amazing set piece. It also helps when it's like, we don't know what this Nathan Drake is. This is the origin one. This is the first movie. We need to get a sense for him. So when in this opening shot, as they're doing this cool action set piece and he's like apologizing to literally everyone
right
every 10 seconds, I'm like, oh, this is not a good audience introduction to this.
No.
I needed something before this moment because I'm just spending this whole time being like, I'm tired of the apologies. This is really awful, actually.
I mean, it's cool that they put Nathan Drake's hair model on the CG man they replace Tom Holland with for 50% of that shot.
Yeah, that also is like their biggest set piece, but the least impressive one because it's all like CG and green screen constantly. It doesn't look good for even a second.
Hey, he jumped between two of those boxes in front of a green screen for like 2 shots.
Yeah, they put out the making up for this. And that's one of the first things I saw of this movie. Like, it's just him jumping between green screen boxes. It's like, great.
So this is going to sound really nitpicky. But this genuinely was a thing that happened in the movie. And Tosh, my girlfriend, sitting next to me watching it, and me at the same time, she says it out loud. She's like, how did Chloe even take that from him? She didn't step anywhere near him. Because in the introduction scene of Chloe in Barcelona, she does that. Turns out they edited an entire scene out of this movie where she stole it from him before they even arrived
but you
there.
Need that.
And I was like, this is a good shot. Why did you take it out? And literally the only reason I could find for that shot was it wasn't cool action.
But nothing in this movie is cool action.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few other scenes like that where it's just like, it's only like a minute and it improves your movie.
They actually had a completely different origin story for Chloe too. Well, I say completely different, but it's very similar. You remember how the story in the actual movie is something like her father took the treasure she found under the bridge and sold it and left her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently it was her uncle. It was a completely different sounding treasure, something like on a beach we found a scabbard or something like that, and it was neat, and my uncle took it and went away. Like that's I think that's a tonal difference of like, I have abandonment issues because my dad left, and I don't trust motherfuckers because my uncle's an alcoholic. I feel like there's a total difference there, but they deliver this scene, this exposition at the house where Sully, Chloe, and Drake are, right? Mm-hmm. I feel so weird to call him Drake.
Yeah, it does seem wrong.
Tom Holland are. So they're talking out in the balcony. It's at night. Sully was pretending to be asleep, and she delivers this. And as she delivers this, Nate says the thing about Sam. And then that's when she drops all of her, I'm having a good time talking to Nate and relating, and then just gets into this very serious, oh, Sam. So then that leads into that other scene where she confronts Sully about this. So what I'm trying to say is I think this movie's written very poorly. The action looks terrible, but they also made confounding choices in editing.
Mm-hmm.
What they removed, how it's cut. This is a real masterpiece. Like, if you're wondering why we're not talking about positives, it's because there basically aren't any. I like one scene in this movie, and that's because it made me clap.
Was it the scene that had Nolan North
yes,
in it?
of course.
Okay.
It was.
There's something about that scene that I feel like we need to point out.
Okay.
It is very, very possible that single scene signals that this movie is canonical to the Uncharted games.
Yes,
and that is actual Nathan Drake.
And it's after Uncharted 4.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying after that scene happened. And I'm like, that's hilarious conceptually, because the scene is this set piece from Uncharted 3. You know, Drake eventually gets to the water. He finds land. And as he comes up on the beach, Nolan North is there. And he's like, hey, what happened to you? And then Tom Holland doing his... I'm literally nothing like Nathan Drake. Dan doing that voice just now was way closer than I get in this movie. Explains to Nolan North that he, fell out of a car, fell out of a plane, fell out of a car, and landed on the ocean. And he goes, that sounds like something that happened to me once. And then he goes, huh? And he walks away. That's the only good part of the movie. That's it. I thought it was really genuinely hilarious, and I enjoy Nolan North, so...
It'd be so good if there's the next movie's just about him.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be great. Sadly, this movie was relatively successful, so it's almost certainly going to get a sequel.
Oh, God, no, don't tell me that.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
It performed really well on streaming. It made money in theaters.
Can you imagine how bad they're going to fuck up Elena?
Oof.
I can't.
The only thing could be, and which I think is entirely possible, is if Tom Holland is like, no, I don't want to do more.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
that would be so awesome.
Everybody involved.
It's because he seems like he's like, no, I'm like stepping away from some stuff that isn't Spider-Man at the moment.
Right. Like doing an Uncharted movie sounded fun. I didn't know you guys were making Now You See Me 3, so I'm just gonna
Thank you for that
gonna
comparison.
call it.
At this moment, as the largest critic of Now You See Me 1 and 2 on this podcast network, I can say I genuinely enjoyed those more.
I will say this movie did an important service, which was, and correct me if there's another movie that did this first, but this film really has signaled that Antonio Banderas has aged into the bracket where he can start playing menacing old men now.
It's great. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, this is going to be a whole new chapter for us.
Tosh, however, Spy Kids pilled. So, of course, she's just like, oh my God, it's him.
It's hard to not see that, especially in a movie like this, which is like, has like this weird tone to it already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could really easily see him like slipping into being Spy Kidsman. Not that a lot of his other movies don't also have him being Spy Kidsman, considering he's fucking Puss in Boots and The Mask of Zorro is an unbelievably goofy movie.
And
That is a very serious
It's raw though.
You're right about this movie's tone. Like it is this. I actually don't know what it's rated, but
It's rated PG-13.
it feels aggressively PG.
It really,
does,
yeah.
Like Holland spends the whole movie Scooby-Dooing around like I'm gonna hit you with a random thing instead of pull out a gun and shoot a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Until the end where he becomes the Tomb Raider.
Yes, he puts on the little 2-gun holder that Drake actually wears.
Shoots 3 bullets, is sort of at a guy, and then goes back to doing whatever.
Yeah.
Not as good as the real Uncharted movie, Kong Skull Island.
That's
Fuck
true.
yeah.
Yeah. What a great film.
Jesus. It's not even fair.
It would be so great if we could get that Metal Gear Solid movie made. It would be nice to have a competently made Metal Gear film by a fan to just be like, Uncharted movie, why can't you be like him?
It was great to watch Kong Skull Island and be like, oh, you hate the U.S. military. You're perfect for Metal Gear. I liked that the villain had these consistent henchmen that were consistently menacing Drake, but none of it's executed well, so it doesn't matter. But I liked the concept of, no, the bad guy has these 2 guys that keep like spatting with the hero over the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it is like not Nadine shows up and you're like, oh, okay, so she's got a couple of guys. I guess she just when it's clear that she's not Nadine, like I guess she's just some tough and she works for Antonio Banderas here. And then the movie keeps going and she just eventually has a mercenary army.
Yeah.
Because Nadine did.
Uh-huh.
And we're not going to really talk about it, but just Shoreline shows up by the end of the film because she's supposed to be Nadine Ross.
Yeah. And up until that point, it really feels like she is a solo contractor, not an army.
Because she clearly needs the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought that she has a PMC of some sort is really, it's a hard ask.
Oh yeah, one of the other few action moments I liked at all is when Tom Holland kicks one of the henchmen who's really fat and just falls over.
Oh yeah, he just kicks this huge dude and just flops on his ass, and I was like, oh, that's really good.
And then they follow it up immediately by having him climb on light bulbs and was like, oh,
and it looks absolutely terrible. And then they have him swing to the ground. And it looks absolutely terrible. Like they won't even show him in the scope of the room.
No.
They're like, okay, nipples up shot only of him hanging from this thing.
Yeah, it just made me think of Jackie Chan's Thunderbolt and how it's like, oh, we made the worst version possible of that, where he he goes down on lights and burns his hands up.
I thought of that, and this is podcast damage where I started where I was like, is this gonna be like the Honeymooners movie and Sullivan is like shoving Antonio Banderas out the door and shutting the door on him?
Oh man, that would have been really good.
Like they have those scenes where Holland is, he's doing the prep work and he's doing the crunches and the muscle ups and the push ups and he's like, we're explaining how he's so good at climbing. This scene made the cut for the movie somehow.
but the one where we find out why Tom Holland might want to kill the villain, no, we don't need that one.
Oh yeah,
They do all the prep and he doesn't do really any Nathan Drake climbing. He parkour
He doesn't
and hops
throw a
over
punch.
shit.
Yeah.
It felt like I was watching fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. where they're not allowed to use their weapons. It's like, why is Nathan Drake like doing Scooby-Doo? Oh, I throw the pot and you catch it, and then I shove you, or I knock something into you, or I pick up a big club and hit you because I can't throw a fucking punch.
Like I could have accepted. I was on track to being able to accept this movie's nonchalant attitude toward its source material, where it didn't really seem to give a shit until the after credits scene.
Oh God.
Huh? Yeah.
Where it felt like the live action Mario movie from the 80s, where it's like, oh, you like this video game? This is stupid.
Yeah, it was upsetting that they started writing them more like you would write these characters for that. Mm-hmm. Like, that was just frustrating. It was like, that's what you should have done at all. And now it feels like you're showing this away.
Shows up with the mustache, throws on the cigar. Drake's got the golden gun. And I'm like, okay, is somebody going to hand somebody a surfboard now, you fuckers?
Yeah, he's going to surf now. Well, not now. In the next movie, though.
Is there any piece of like is there any online post in history that has aged more gracefully than the Surf Dracula
It
post?
just keeps getting worse.
Right.
Like, no, you need the origin of Surf Dracula.
Yeah, the worst part is, like, I like Tom Holland. I like him in the Spider-Man films. Mm-hmm. You cast an actor that is literally just good for the origin film. I do not think any level of performance from Tom Holland will capture the essence of Drake at all. I don't think at any point he can act like Drake and that will land. And that's really unfortunate since they might make a sequel.
Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of like, oh, this character is wrong and this character is off, and why isn't she Nadine? God damn it. What the fuck is Mark Wahlberg doing here?
Not acting.
Not acting. I assume what happened was Mark Wahlberg was like, but it's like how Donald Glover was like the Prowler in one of the Spider-Man things because he was too old to be Miles Morales, because that was always the Miles Morales fan cast. Mark Wahlberg was the Drake fan cast, so they just made him Sullivan because he was too old.
I thought they had him attached to the project as Drake for a while.
Yes, I think that's literally what happened. He aged out of it because it took so long to make, and they're like, well, I guess now you have to be Sully.
Well, now he's Sully. We're like, there's a significant middle period here in which that is not okay.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work at all.
like Mark Wahlberg, whatever he's doing in this film, like, it's fine. It's cool. It was kind of interesting. It had absolutely nothing to do with Victor goddamn Sullivan.
Yeah, he's genuinely my least favorite part of this film. Mm-hmm. And I liked him in other shit. So it's really not a personal, I dislike this actor. He doesn't work for the character here, and he definitely doesn't work for anything resembling Sully.
Right, and it was like we talked about how people don't have chemistry. He is the one who has to interact with the other characters the most, it feels like, and he doesn't have chemistry with any of them. Like, it's extra severe with him.
And it's weird because an Uncharted thing should have many characters with an insane amount of charisma and many interactions with chemistry. No one in this has charisma except for Antonio Banderas. He's the only one with charisma, and it's more like he's chewing scenery, right?
Right.
I mean, not Nadine is usually doing a good job. She just doesn't have anything to do.
Right?
Yeah, she really should. Like, Nadine is great because her employer dies, and she's like, I don't care about this. I'm out.
Right?
Like, that's an amazing part of the character you don't see written nearly enough. Instead, in this, they do the exact obvious normal thing of, no, she wants the power. She's going to take over.
Actually, you know what makes Nadine better? Her employer didn't die.
Oh, yeah.
She looks at Drake and her employer and goes, you two have fun. You're fucked up in the head. This right here, this is literally where I draw the line. You two need to seek God or something. And just finally fucking leaves.
God, 4 was so good.
4 was so good.
Yeah, it's
Needs more respect, frankly.
to try and remake that and do anything from it. You shouldn't even touch it yet. You're not ready.
No.
You just aren't.
No, in fact, it's clear they're not even ready to take on 1.
No.
But that's what they're teasing.
I don't hold one in this like incredible like, oh, you'll never be as good as this. Like, I don't even think that's
One would have been the best one to make a movie out of.
yes.
Yeah.
Because you could have like the jet ski section and it would be cool and not ass.
But they would film it on a green screen because they only have Tom Holland for a few days in between Spider-Mans.
Yeah, like do you think it was like Tom Holland, I'm Tom Holland, do you want to do your own stunts? Yes. And there's like the Disney stormtroopers being like, the stunts must not be impressive at all. He must not be in any danger.
What you can't see is a bunch of Disney employees in green screen suits lifting him up to do the jumps.
This was such a softball project.
It was. It was so simple.
Like, I remember back in the day, they're like, we're going to make an Uncharted movie. And we're like, why?
I'm honestly hard pressed to think of an Uncharted movie that like wouldn't just feel superfluous because of how good the games look, how well they're executed. It's just like the best Uncharted movie you could make still would probably feel like a hollow imitation of these games. Stop climbing for like the approval of this industry you're a competitor to.
It gives the impression that like Hollywood is just full of people not giving a shit, half-assing everything thoughtlessly, because that's what this comes across as, right?
Mm.
It's a bunch of things where enough factors were changed because it was more convenient that way, where now it's all terrible. Every single thing was changed arbitrarily to be a worse version of itself.
Yep. Because the goal wasn't to adapt this source material. The goal was to leverage this IP.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They were just entirely dismissive of the themes, characters, and ideals of the original game series. So you made shit.
Yeah, you just made, like I was saying before, the watered down Indiana Jones. Like they go to the church and literally like remake a scene from Indiana Jones, but worse in every way.
But every single we solved the puzzle scene sucked.
Yeah.
Like I remember
The absolute funniest one was the map, because it's like, what are you doing? Where he's like has the two crosses
Right?
on the map and like wiggles them around and doesn't really look like he's doing something. He's like, it must be here.
that's all the puzzle solving is. Like the one where they move the pew in the church and they see the sigil that a bunch of pirates carved, and the nuns were okay with it, I guess, for 400 years. He's like, this must be the cathedral based on nothing, and these are the stairs. What the fuck are you pointing at? So that means that, there's just a big fucking arrow in the middle of this circle.
Yes.
Fuck off.
The one part that I liked that I thought was really clever
Uh-huh.
was when they use the key. They're down in the fucking catacombs under Barcelona. They're going around and they find an underground rave.
Yes.
Yes.
That is my favorite part because it gives you the idea that they're going to do something you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, we're calling back to that earlier scene where we made Nathan Drake a bartender for no fucking reason.
Look, you learned bar tricks, and that's all we could do to try and give Nathan Drake a character because we have no idea what his character is.
That's really depressing. I know what you're saying is true, but just listening to it makes me feel worse. So if you could stop.
But yeah, that and then the modern, like Papa John's being where the other stage key is.
Hearing Mark Wahlberg say, I'm literally standing in a Papa John's.
The behind the scenes where he's just like, yeah, and then we had the Papa John's fight. My big scene in the Papa John's. Yeah.
I'm clawing through my notes like, do I have anything else about this movie? There was so
you know-
little anything in it.
God, like they do the Papa John's fight. They use both crosses to unlock the door, and there's the four big Roman urns, and they find the map, and then Chloe pulls the gun on him. And like, or just don't. Because this is really like, if you didn't betray him right now, we could cut probably 4 scenes out of the rest of this movie.
Yeah.
And at this point, everything you're doing is just making me tired.
But don't you see how that fits into the theme of the movie? I mean, Nate had that talk with Sully near the end about how there isn't a we, there's only you. That's the theme.
What a stupid fucking movie.
You know how Chloe Fraser shows up in Uncharted 2 and it's implied that she has a complex backstory with Nathan?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the backstory was this movie.
Oh, replaying those games.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go replay 2, and that's going to make everything weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's the next time you see her is 2.
Now they can bring all this back in the sequel. They just need to make the antagonist of the sequel Talbot.
I mean, it would be the most authentic thing they could possibly do if Talbot just got to places and did things that nobody could understand.
Then Samuel L. Jackson is chasing him down like only God should have this power.
It's not me making the Jumper reference. Oh, please.
Shut the fuck up about Jumper! I'm gonna end up watching Jumper just because you won't stop talking about Jumper!
Hopefully it's on HBO Max. It might disappear.
I'm going to be honest. I just, at this point, I have a fight or flight reaction to people talking about Talbot teleporting because here's the thing. I didn't notice that happening when I played through 3 because I was so beaten down by the fact 3 was so fucking mid. Looking over at my 11-inch Nathan Drake statue that came with the special edition.
What you're saying is you feel a little bit like the Gears of War 2 special edition people with the picture of Dom's wife. Uncharted.
So, minor Talbot story. I had to go to Wikipedia to remember Nadine's name because I had forgotten it.
Mm-hmm.
And Talbot's entry on the Uncharted characters Wikipedia page mentions unknown abilities 4 times.
No, it's really good. It's like the shit you would do in a movie because it makes it interesting. Like when your character turns a corner and the main character right behind them turns the corner and they're not there. And we're 7 stories up. How did he disappear?
And the answer is we don't know.
And that's why in a movie it's perfect. People would just give it a pass, but in the video games, because there are 2 other Uncharteds that don't do that shit, you just sit there and go, what the fuck is Talbot's deal? And you find out there is no deal. There might not even be Talbot. Who knows?
It was a tree.
The Wikipedia implies he's using hypnosis to trick people?
Wiki writers for video games are some of the most insane people I've ever heard of.
It's my contention that Talbot seriously isn't real. You're hallucinating him because that weird you see gin now drug they hit you with at the end is so fucking dank it stretches back through time.
Oh, wait, what if it's in water like PFAS? It's just like, it's all of our bodies are getting drugged with the gin drug. We're all just going to see Talbots now. Yeah, I've been looking at this new place. The cost of living's much lower, and they don't have the gin drug as heavy in the water. So that'll be nice not seeing Talbot every night for dinner.
God, it's horrible.
You know, I hear the gin drug secretly turns you communist.
Oh my God.
Does Talbot talk you into it or something?
He debates you. Say something communist or shut the fuck up. And he's just right behind you saying that.
This is basically what I hear Disco Elysium is like.
Yes, actually. Well, guys, I think we can feel really proud about this podcast and Spoilercast. Reason being, given the material we were handed, we did a great job adapting it to a new medium. But unfortunately, I feel we have to wrap on this. Does anyone else have any last-minute anecdotes before we continue?
Yeah, Sam's in this movie only so they can fuck up the part where Sam doesn't leave his brother in the orphanage.
Yep.
Sure, we're not ready to make Uncharted 4.
They sure made a bunch of decisions at random, not understanding what that affected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. As I said before, a few sentences, ultimately summarizing the core problems, or who knows, maybe there's some upsides you had with this movie. Before you give it a score out of 10, and then we plug it in and see what the average score is and stuff. We're going to go ahead and start with Chris Wolfhard.
I'm going to give this movie a 5. It just barely makes it to that bar of, if I'm doing something, I won't bother to get up to change it. Like if I'm building a table and it's on in the room, I'm gonna be like, well, you can stay on, whatever.
That's fine. I'll just look up when he spins the bottle.
A completely superfluous film, fungible.
Okay, we move next to Bob.
Yeah, this movie is just really plain by the numbers and kind of boring, but it's not like offensively bad. So I'm also gonna set it at 5. Like, it doesn't hurt to watch. I just would rather not watch it.
Okay, Dr. Aggro.
The Uncharted movie feels like a throwback to a darker time when Hollywood would take pity on a video game and do it the favor of adapting its meager, vulgar content into the elevated form of a movie. This is beyond neglect. This shit is downright disrespectful. I'm going to give this movie a 4.
Now, I'm a simple gamer. I don't have fancy words like Dr. Aggro to describe this film, but it also is deeply upsetting because I feel like Tomb Raider was a better movie than this. That just don't make sense.
Ugh.
I also am starting to wonder if Jumper's a better film. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. It is not offensively bad per se, if you're not looking at it directly.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that at all.
Right. Phil said perfect film to watch while building a desk, I guess. It's in the room, like whatever. This brings our total to 17 out of a possible 40, giving it an average score of 4.25. I could genuinely say this is one of the most mid things of the year we've covered on a Spoilercast review.
Watching this movie felt like sliding across smooth glass.
Yeah.
Like towards a cliff, like a sheer drop.
Yeah, and it would be exciting, except I'm not playing a video game. I'm watching a movie.
The executive producers for this GigaBoots video are Esme, Ely Broyles, Spaceman Spiff, Red Blaze 27, Brendan O'Sullivan, A Reminder for Symphony of War, Cooper Tank, Very Best Plot, Iconic Bane, and Rado. Thank you very much to our executive producers. And also these guys. If you want to become an executive producer or normal patron, head on over to patreon.com/gigaboots today.